Hello, this is Mark from exceloffthegrid.com, and in this video I'll be showing you the answer to a question that somebody recently sent me. And the question was this: if you would want to add a browse button right beside the cell that contains the file path so that you won't need to manually copy and paste the file path in the cell, how would you do that? Okay, let me show you the solution that I came up with. Here on the screen you'll see a file path and a folder next to that file path. If I click that folder, what happens is we get the File Open dialog box that pops up, and from there we can select a file. If I move that down slightly, you can see in the cell at the moment we have example file number 1. But if I select example file number 2 and click Open, that then refreshes into that cell. Let me just show you that again. If I click on the folder, this time I'll select file 3 and then click Open. And that's now changed to file number 3. Now what's interesting about this is that if I open up the folder itself, what you'll see is that there's actually 4 files in there. There's 2 XLS files, an XLSM file and a PDF file. But we've set up our folder icon so that we can only select Excel files. So if I close that window and then click on our folder again, as you'll see, it only contains the 3 Excel files. Okay, now that you know what the result looks like, let's look at how we can achieve this. So here in Excel, we have our file path. Well, actually, it's just a cell and it just contains text. It just so happens that that text belongs to a file path. The first thing we're going to do is for this cell C3 is to make that a named range, and we're going to call that file path. There we go, simple enough. But the real driver of this is a macro, so let's go and have a look at the code for that macro. If you have the developer ribbon open, you can click developer in the ribbon at the top and then the Visual Basic icon. If you don't have the developer ribbon open, that's fine, you can press Alt and F11 and both of those methods will open the Visual Basic editor. Here on the screen you can see the code that I've entered into module 1. Now if you've not used macros before and you want to create a module, what you can do is click on your file and then click Insert and then Module, and that will then create a new module for you. And in that module you want to insert the code that you can see on the screen. Now let's go through this code line by line. So it starts with sub select file. So that means that our macro will be called select file. We then create a variable with the code dim dialog box as file dialog. Now each window that opens in Excel is a dialog box, and that has the object type of file dialog. Then after we've created our variable, we will then set that variable. So set dialog box equals, now the specific dialog box that we want is the MSO file dialog open. There are lots of dialog boxes in Excel, but the one we want is this specific one. So the code, as I said, was set dialog box equals application.fileDialog, then MSO file dialog open in brackets. Having declared and set our variable, we can then determine the properties and methods that we want to apply to it. So the first property of this dialog box that we want to set is whether we allow multiple selections or not. Because we just want to enter one file path into a cell, we're going to set the allow multi-select property to false. Next, we'll change the title of our dialog box so it says select a file at the top. Then we'll set a default folder name, so whenever we click the folder icon, it will always open at the same folder. The next 2 lines of code determine the types of files that can be selected. So first of all, we clear any existing filters with filters.clear. Then after that, we apply new filters with filters.add. And the files we want to use are called Excel workbooks, and they are any files that end with .xlsx, .xls or .xlsm. If we wanted to add more file types, PDFs for example, we could enter a semicolon, then an asterisk, then .pdf. That would then allow us to open up PDF files. Finally, having set all the properties and methods, we can then use the show method, which will finally open the dialog box. Then when somebody clicks open, the value of the range called file path on the active sheet is given the value of the first item selected in the dialog box. If you remember, we set the allow multi-select property to false, so in our scenario there will only ever be one item selected. And we end our macro with end sub. Right, let's go put this macro to work. So again, if we press Alt and F11 to close the Visual Basic Editor. And here we are back in Excel. So next we want to create our icon or button. So here in the Insert menu, you can see we have the Icons option. Now depending on which version of Excel you have, you may not have an Icons option, but that's okay. You can select any shape or any picture and it will work in the same way. So I'll select Icons. And because this is a folder, I'm going to search for a folder icon. That one looks good. Then I can click Insert. Let's drag that into a suitable location and make it quite a lot smaller. That looks about right. Then I can click it, and from the graphics fill, I can change that to a orangey colour. That's similar to the kind of colour we associate with folders. And now all we have to do is assign our macro to that picture. So I'll right click on the image and then come down to Assign Macro. Here in the Assign Macro window, I have my macro called Select File. So I'll click that and then select OK. And that's it. Now let's test it out. I'll click the folder and there we have it. It goes to our default file path and selects all of the XLSX, XLS or XLSM file types. So as you can see, we had file 1 previously. If I select file 2, click open, that then changes to file number 2. Well, that's it from me. If you want to see more of my videos, you can click on one of the links on the screen, but also don't forget to subscribe and get notifications so that you don't miss any future videos. So thanks for watching and I'll catch you next time.